Hello, welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm Nikki Wellman. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the birth of Raoul Wallenberg, the legendary Swedish diplomat who saved an estimated 100,000 Jews during the Holocaust. One of those he saved, John Dubai, was recently a keynote speaker at this year's annual Yom Hashoa Holocaust Remembrance Day ceremony in Johannesburg.
Why? My tears fall, my supplications flow, my heart aches, my soul shivers. Atrocities, oppression, cruelty, a Holocaust reborn so clear to the naked eye. Why has the world turned a blind eye?
Raoul Wallenberg, humanitarian. Somewhere in the depths of darkness, they all remembered. The man who saved so many. They remembered his tricks with the Schütz pass. The man who saved so many. They remembered his devastation when the Danube claimed so many. Bureaucrats and governments remembered too, with less precision. He's safe, he's dead, we just don't know. As if knowing is the question, and not how we each in 40 years are his kinds of humanitarian.
Today, the Jewish community of Johannesburg is coming together to remember and mourn the victims of Nazi tyranny. At this time, we remind ourselves of how a rabid ideology, underpinned by unrestrained anti-Semitic hatred, led directly to the murder of 6 million of our people. We remember each and every one of those victims, not as statistics, but as unique individuals whose lives were cruelly taken for no other reason than that they were Jews. Yet we also remember those who did not look the other way when confronted with this unspeakable evil, but instead did whatever they could to prevent it. Amongst the most revered of these heroes was Raoul Wallenberg, savior of an estimated 100,000 Hungarian Jews during the time he served as the Swedish envoy in Budapest. 2012 marks the centenary of the birth of this great and noble man, and we are deeply privileged to have as our keynote speaker today Mr. John Dubai, one of those whom Wallenberg provided with life-giving sanctuary.
We are here today for several reasons. Together, we remember the Holocaust, an event so terrible it is difficult to comprehend, and the scale of which is truly beyond understanding. In the Holocaust, the Nazis and their allies were determined to exterminate a people not for what they did, but for what they were. The advancing Red Army reached Hungary. My father's camp was dissolved, and he walked back the 250 kilometers to Budapest in the autumn of 1944. He managed to get documents from the Swedish embassy, giving us their protection and even space in a building the Swedish government bought to shelter that they were protecting. This effort was organized and inspired by Raoul Wallenberg, who came from one of the leading and wealthiest Swedish families. He need not have done this. He was well educated in several countries. He was wealthy. But when he heard of the events in Hungary, he got a diplomatic posting to save as many as he could. He protested, argued, and threatened Nazis and Hungarian officers and officials to save people from certain death. He handed out papers at railway stations, even as the train of deportees was about to leave. Due to the war, the house we were moved to had no electricity, gas, water, or even glass in the windows. And the temperature was below -10 degrees centigrade. Budapest was surrounded by the Russians, and the city was bombed and shelled day and night. Although we were close to starvation, we felt safer in that house. Even as the Russian army were fighting street by street, the Nazis took many Jews who were living in the so-called protected houses and shot them into the Danube. Liberation for us came on the 13th of January 1945. The fighting in the city went on for some weeks. Raoul Wallenberg almost at once went to the Soviet headquarters to ask for food to be sent to the inhabitants of Budapest. On arrival, there he was arrested and disappeared into the vast Soviet prison system. To this day, his fate is unknown, but his deeds are remembered all over the world as a righteous Gentile.
Yom Hashoa, or Holocaust Remembrance Day, is held annually as a memorial day for those who died in the Shoah, or Holocaust. Shoah, which means catastrophe or utter destruction in Hebrew, refers to the atrocities that were committed against the Jewish people during World War II.
In Pammerland bis ganz von weißen Schnee, wir kommen noch mit unserer Pain, mit unserer Welt.
Ghetto songs serve three major purposes: documentation of ghetto life, a diversion from reality, and the upholding of tradition. The ghetto songs reveal the capacity for suffering and the elemental will to survive, as well as the urge to create, to sing, and even to laugh. This song was adopted by a number of partisan groups during World War II and became a symbol of resistance against Nazi Germany's persecution. It has become one of the main anthems of Holocaust remembrance and is sung at memorial services the world over.
Kommen wird noch so ist gebenkte Show. Es wird heute dann unser Tod mit seinen
This year is the Raoul Wallenberg year in Hungary. We dedicated the whole year for the memory of Raoul Wallenberg because, you know, we know that Hungarian Jews were saved by Raoul Wallenberg. That's why, you know, Hungary owed probably the most to his noble mission in Budapest. We have quite a few events, and not only back in Hungary, but also here in South Africa. You know, we dedicated this year also here for the memory of Raoul Wallenberg. We are working together with the Israeli and the Swedish ambassador, and just day before yesterday we had a wonderful commemorative reception at my residence. Also attended by diplomats and also members of the Jewish community here and survivors. And also we were very happy to have John Dobai here, a Hungarian survivor who is living in the UK.
The Holocaust is a particularly Jewish aspect. It has remnants for Jews all over the world, and as the guardian of Jewish rights in South Africa, the commemoration of the Holocaust falls within the ambit of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. It's one of the annual commemorations that we are responsible for, and I think it's very important given that the amount of Holocaust survivors who are left in the world are slowly diminishing as time passes on, and we believe it's important that the Holocaust memory and the memory of the victims of the Holocaust be remembered, and in particular is remembered by the future generations, because as you know, the Holocaust is not over. worldwide anti-Semitism is on its rise. There are regimes around the world who are creating weapons of mass destruction for the intended purpose of destroying the Jewish home in Israel. And if we don't remember what's happened to us in the past, it will be very difficult for us to prevent what may happen in the future.
Well, that brings us to the end of this week's show. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do tune in again, same time next week. Remember, we'd love to hear from you, so find us on Facebook at spiritsisterproductions.net. As always, from me, Nikki, and the team, shalom, and have a safe and peaceful week.
Visit www.spiritsister.co.za to view previous episodes of Simcha, a celebration of life.